So I am going to talk metrics. Thank you for having me because it's, I'm excited to talk to a group that thinks metrics are sexy, because usually that doesn't happen, especially at home, by the way. So I'm going to be real quick and burn through these slides. Number one, it's all about the objective, right? Before you start any program, this is online, offline, any kind of marketing, what are you trying to do? And my job, a lot of times, is to convince our account service people or the client to say, think about this before we just go update a website. So these are just some examples of the objectives you might be trying to improve, but this is what you're going to measure against then later when you implement these activities. So, first tip, integrating your AdWords and your analytics. How many of you have actually done this? Better yet, how many have not done this yet? It's now an 8-step process. It used to be a lot simpler. You just kind of put your login into analytics, but now it's a little more complicated to link the 2 accounts. I'm not going to go through all 8 steps because it would probably take me the full 10 minutes to go through. But here's just kind of a sampling, and I did give you a link where if you haven't done this yet, you can check it out and get these integrated. Now, why are we doing that? Because paid search activity is tracked as a campaign. Like an offline media campaign, you know your spend, you know your impressions, you know what you're trying to do, and you can actually track it then within Google Analytics. You're bringing in your impression cost, click data from AdWords, but then you can add a whole host of analytics data to your measurement. So time on site, specific conversions. Let's say a conversion is not a page where you placed your AdWords conversion script, but what you're considering a conversion is a PDF download or a chat that was initiated. You can track all those goals against your paid search campaigns that way. Again, paid search, fairly straightforward. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. What I want to get to, let me back up. The 3 key metrics I look at in paid search, I take that cost data that I pulled in from AdWords, I'm using the visit data, and I'm using the conversion data. From there, I can calculate a whole host of metrics that are valuable to my clients. Cost per click, cost per acquisition in the case of conversion. I can even calculate ROI if I know the average value of what a conversion might be. We have a client who knows, let's say for chat, any chat that's initiated ends up being about $140 a business. Any downloaded white paper, $250. By having those values added to the goals, I can calculate true ROI on the cost of the campaign. So now, when you get to SEO, how many of you guys spend more time in SEO than paid search? It's a lot more difficult to measure and prove value to clients. So one of the things that I do, a lot of times I work with our SEO team, you're looking at pre and post measurement. It's a standard media measurement. You do it with TV, broadcast, advertising. You might do it with direct mail. You can do it with your organic search. You can look at, we implemented the new pages, or we implemented the number of new keywords and tagging efforts on this date, and here's what happened afterwards. In this case, hey, visits went up, great, people are finding us. Pages per visit went down, duration went down. So we brought in more people, maybe not as high quality as we had before. The other thing, looking at this kind of pre and post measurement, it's only going to work for either the organic in total or a small set of keywords or landing pages. You can create a filter for the keywords that you may be optimized for. The problem is in Google Analytics, your filter for a segment is limited. And you might be limited to 20, 30 keywords. You might have to start using regular expressions to get it all captured. It becomes difficult. You can filter down to landing pages that we're working on and see, did that landing page make a difference? But again, it's somewhat limited to what you can look at. So my one tip on SEO is using the advanced segments to drill into what your effort was. In this case, a segment of any visitor that used 4 or more keywords in their search coming to the website. Pretty nasty regular expression, so I'm going to give you a link for that later. So in this case, we set up some advanced segments, those people that came in from a single keyword search, 2 to 3 keywords, or 4 or more. And then we can look at the traffic and the metrics on the site from there. In this case, interesting to know, 2 to 3 word keyword phrases drove the most traffic in terms of organic search. And there's the link in terms of, that'll bring you to a page that will give you 9 advanced segments that are key for any sort of analytics effort. So the second thing, you've probably heard a lot about not provided. Anybody have concerns over not provided? Okay. I've seen it anywhere from affecting 20% of searches up to 40, 50% of searches. What you're going to find, though, is the trends are still going to be the same. Now, one way to maybe get around the not provided issue is to integrate with Webmaster Tools and bring that into Google AdWords. Who here has done that? A lot fewer than integrating with AdWords. If you're using the async version of code on your site, you can integrate with Webmaster Tools. So you go to the site within the Webmaster Tools login, go to the site that you want to integrate with Google Analytics properties, and that'll give you the choice to add it. And what happens is you can now, under sources, there'll be search optimization. And so here you can see the number of query strings, or number of queries, search queries, how many impressions and how many clicks there actually were in this time frame. I'm looking at a couple different time frames. Apparently mismatched socks was a hot Christmas item in December. Who knew? So as I noted here, you can start to look at what pages, this shows query string. You can also see landing pages from the Webmaster Tools data. So you can start to see which pages are generating traffic from core search results, or what keywords aren't ranking as high as they should be. Maybe mismatched socks, we need to put more effort in December to get that ranking higher, drive even more traffic. The next thing that I do is treat SEO as a campaign. My animations here a lot. This is a pretty big item. This is how you get to measure SEO similar to paid search. Look at the investment, look at your ad groups, look at your campaigns, and start to identify return on investment. So, using PPC, paid search, as your guide, if you were to download a set of campaigns, let's say you're going to optimize some landing pages around nutrition. Look at my paid search campaign that I have around nutrition. I'm going to download the top performing keywords from that campaign. And here's where you have to do a little data magic. And here's where APIs come in, which I know we're going to talk about a little later. Downloading that data and doing a little spreadsheet or database work. And here's the nasty little array formula. I can now group how many keywords, how many monthly searches I'm getting, or how many visits, whatever data I tend to pull down. And in this case, I'm adding a measure of relevance to the brand. How important is it? Instead of relevance, you could add competition or average rank, search rank. So what I end up creating is a bubble chart like this that starts to look at, okay, what keywords am I driving a lot of traffic from? How many keywords are driving that traffic? In the case of a client here, those are branded terms, so it's a lot fewer terms driving a ton of traffic. It takes me more keywords to drive the food category. I can start to do things on the site, optimize pages around food, for example, to try and move that bubble, increase the size. The smaller red bubble here, it's got a fair number, it's important to the business, but there's not a lot of keywords, not a lot of searches. That's an area, that set of keywords, that's what I want to work on my website, and start working on those pages. Like I mentioned, instead of relevance to business, I could have a competition metric, an average rank metric. If I was looking at conversions, for example, as my x-axis, this red dot up here might indicate high volume of traffic from a fair number of keywords, but they're not converting. That's going to tell me I need to look at the landing pages for those keywords. Where are they going? Where's that traffic going? How do I optimize those pages for conversion? Once you have those categories, you can take any metric that you're pulling down from Google and start to measure against different time periods. So I'm pulling keyword searches for across my categories for 2 different time frames. We put a lot of effort into in these small areas, small categories. Not a lot of keywords in these categories, but very important to the client, and we made an impact from one year to the next in terms of searches. I think actually in this case it was visits to the site. So this could be visits, number of keywords that are being searched, even impressions if you're pulling that data from the integrated Webmaster Tools. So, kind of real quick summary. These 5 items are things that you can implement in your own practice. If there's one thing on here that you aren't doing now that you're going to go back and do, then I think I've done my job for tonight. Any questions on this? I think I did it 11 flat.
Question up front?
Yeah, so you mentioned bringing Google Webmaster Tools data into analytics and using that as sort of a workaround around the provided. Some of the data that I've seen in Google Webmaster Tools and some of the things I've read, sort of August viewers kind of suggested that that is pretty crappy in terms of the accuracy of it. Have you noticed anything in your analysis of that?
Here's what I would say about Webmaster Tools. Don't use it to reconcile data, hard and fast data. It's trend. A lot of times I have to tell clients, it may not reconcile. It's not going to tie out. This isn't accounting. It's not going to tie out all the debits and credits. What you need to look for is trends. So if the trend of impressions and searches seems accurate, then you can compare that to what you're seeing in terms of keyword search volume, for example. We might compare the queries from the Webmaster data to the list of organic keywords, and if there's something out of place, that deserves investigation, right? If your top query from the Webmaster Tools is one term, and that term doesn't even show up in your top 20 keywords, then something's going on. If the trend is consistent, or there's a trend there, then I think it's okay to continue. And I'll be honest, I don't spend a ton of time in Webmaster Tools. As the analytics director, I spend a lot of time in the overall site metrics, and I rely on a lot of the team members here to really dig into this. So they might have some other comments on that.
There's a question over the left.
Yeah.
How much have you been using multi-channel funnels for analytics and for looking at organic or the attribution effects of organic opportunities to see for channel funnels?
We've been using it a little bit. To be honest, when I've looked at it, I haven't been surprised by the data. For the clients that I'm working on, I've seen mainly 2, maybe 3 steps in the funnel. And a lot of it tends to be the same channel. So I'm seeing organic, and then a conversion, or organic, maybe organic paid, or paid. I'm not seeing, at least for the clients that I'm using or not, a lot of differentiation between the channels. I think what's coming, and I'm really excited about universal analytics, because the multi-channel funnels there are going to cross not just the website, but be able to look at from mobile to desktop to tablet and still apply that multi-channel funnel. If you don't know, what Google unveiled at their summit last October, and Jeff, I think, live blogged about this, universal analytics. They're trying to get rid of the idea of just your website and track visitor behavior from a device, basically, with a new cookie that they're implementing. So if I do a search on my phone, I get to a website, and I come back later on the desktop, they'll see that as one person and know that, okay, multi-channel funnel will tell me he came from organic search and then he came to direct because he just typed in. And it's going to, in addition to tracking across devices, you're going to be able to upload, in fact, this is in beta right now, I found it the other day, upload offline cost data. So you might be using your UTM variables to track banner ads and other type of activity. You can now upload the cost for those banner ads right into Google Analytics and get your cost per click, cost per conversion metrics right there, instead of taking it offline like you have to do now and taking your double click